I have been getting this question repeatedly for more than 1 year from students who are really interested to know how they can secure admissions at universities if their undergraduate GPA was on the lower side. So finally, here is the video on this very important topic, which I hope will benefit many students. This is Chaitanya Sambhara, faculty at the College of Business, University of Texas, Arlington. So let me start with a real life story of my friend Hemant. Hemant had a GPA of 2.04 in his undergrad education. 2.04 out of 4. Well, you need a minimum GPA of 2 out of 4 to get your degree. So he had the bare minimum GPA based on which he could actually earn his degree. What happened then? He was under probation almost the entire duration of his college life. He was barely able to graduate, and yet he went to a high-ranked university for his graduate degree. How did he do that? I will explain to you what you can do to improve your profile for your application for graduate studies if you have lower GPA. And when applicable, I will give Hemant's examples. Broadly speaking, there are 5 important categories as shown here that are evaluated for your admissions. The first aspect is your undergraduate college, the reputation of the college and the GPA that you got there. The second aspect are your test scores. The third aspect is your personal statement, where you describe why you should be given an opportunity for admission into that particular university. The fourth aspect are your recommendation letters. And the fifth aspect is to do with your add-ons that can actually boost your profile. For example, you might have some research publication that will be very valuable when you apply for graduate school. Another aspect could be, let's say, your work experience in the domain in which you're applying for admissions for the master's degree. The third aspect could be your participation, or even better, the prizes you might have won in the same domain. For example, if you're applying for a master's in computer science, you might have won a robotics event, a robotics competition, or something like that. So all these extracurricular activities can also boost your profile. Now, based on these criteria, your overall profile is evaluated. The two most important aspects where if you lack, your chances get hurt a lot are your test scores and your GPA. And among the two, your undergraduate college and GPA is valued more in most schools. Now, what happens is that when you apply to any university, if you have lower GPA but other factors on your profile are comparable to other applicants, then you have a disadvantage that other applicants do not have. In that case, your likelihood to get admission into that university is very low. Now, what you can do? You can either try to boost your profile in other aspects, because GPA, let's be real, you cannot go and fix it. If you have low test scores, you can take that test again. But GPA, there's nothing much you can do. So you must change the dynamics of your profile by improving on other 4 factors. How do you do that? Let's take it one by one. So the first thing you can do is to try and get a stellar test score. If you're taking GRE, try and get as high score as you can get. You have to have a top-notch score in these tests. In case of Hemant, for example, he wanted to switch to law school. Hemant did his bachelor's in industrial engineering from Georgia Tech with a GPA of 2.04. But when he was applying to law school after his undergraduate degree, he made almost perfect score out of 180 in the LSAT exam. That is the exam that you take for law schools. He scored a 179. He scored either 99 or 100 percentile. That actually boosted his profile. That can clearly show that even though your GPA is not all that good, but you are a very sharp student. The fact is that when Hemant went to Georgia Tech for undergraduate degree in industrial engineering, he had lost all interest in that topic, and therefore he was not able to put all that effort early on in the program. And he was not able to keep up with that pressure for all those 4 years. But note that he was truly an outlier. That's what you want to become. He was an outlier because usually what happens is that your GPA is correlated with your test scores. Now, if you can prove that your test score is very high and try and offset your GPA concerns, then you might have a chance. In Hemant's case, when he was applying to law schools, the point is that each law school is different and the way they weight your GPA and your LSAT score varies. Some schools prioritize your GPA and some schools prioritize your LSAT scores. And because of such differences, there were cases where he could not get into some lower ranked law schools, but he got into some higher ranked law schools. For example, he could not get into Mercer Law School in Georgia, but he got admission at University of Georgia Law School and he was waitlisted at Emory Law School. But over and above all of this, a very, very important point to note is that even though on paper it seems like he had low GPA, which was 2.04 out of 4, but remember that GPA was earned in the most reputed industrial engineering program in the world. Georgia Tech is ranked the best university in industrial engineering, at least in the US, if not the entire world. He was in a very, very tough program to begin with. If Hemant had low GPA from third tier school, his story would have been much more different. He would have struggled a lot more. So even if your GPA is on the lower side, if you are from a top ranked university in your undergraduate degree, that might still help you offset that, because you have that intellectual capability to do well in future, and you can show that by maximizing your test scores. The second thing you can do to improve your profile is to get some solid work experience in the area in which you're applying. If you have 2, 3, 4 years of work experience, you can actually get a recommendation letter from your manager or your colleagues, and that can actually help you show that you are a good performer. And you can also show that GPA is not the only criteria based on which you should be evaluated. The third tip that I have for you to improve your profile is to get some research papers published. How do you do that? Well, that is an entire topic on its own. I will discuss that in a future video. But if you can have a research paper on your CV, if you can show that you have a good paper in a reputed conference or a journal, you can boost your profile still. The fourth tip that I have for you is that in your personal statement, explain the reasons why your GPA was on the lower side. See, that is an elephant in the room. You cannot just escape from that. You can be brutally honest. You can say that I lost interest in that major. It was too late to change majors. I went through some difficult times during that period. And you can also say that you got distracted and lost motivation to perform in that particular area of study. And then it is very important to say that you have learned your lessons and you have now come to a point where you recognize what actually interests you. And because this is the program that I'm applying for and this is the program that is really interesting to me, I am trying to switch to this particular program as opposed to the program that I was earlier enrolled into. And therefore, I should be given an opportunity to showcase my capabilities. And how do I showcase that? With other factors that we are discussing. You can show the evidence through your good test scores that you are otherwise a capable student. In Hemant's case, he was open. He said that he got off to a bad start. He failed in 2 classes right in the beginning of his undergraduate degree. But then, as he progressed through his undergraduate program, his grades started to improve. So by the time he finished his undergraduate studies, he had enough GPA that was able to offset his poor GPA early on in the program. In his case, his grades in the third and the fourth year of his undergraduate degree were far better than his grades in the first and the second year. And then how he supported his application for admission into law school is that he said that I have an engineering background and because of that I'm interested in patent laws. Then he had work experience in music industry as well, and therefore he expressed interest in that area as well. See, you don't have to have specific answer what kind of law you want to pursue or whichever program you're applying to. Depending on that, you don't have to be absolutely specific that this is exactly what I want to do, but you can express interest in 2, 3 or 4 areas that you would like to pursue. In case of Hemant, he was able to express interest in patent and intellectual property rights laws. My fifth tip for you is to apply generously. You have to be very judicious on what kind of schools you're applying to. You have to apply for little lower ranked universities. See, if you target higher ranked universities that you could have gotten had you had better GPA, applying to those schools is more or less a waste of your time. So you have to go a little lower. Now please remember this point. Just because you went to that particular university does not guarantee your success or failure. It is your personal endeavors that will eventually decide how you do. Please do not be discouraged if you are going to a somewhat lower ranked universities than your expectations. At best, that could matter when you're trying to get your first job, but after that, it really does not matter. You can perform well and you can move up the ranks and you can switch companies as well. My sixth and final tip is to consider switching your area of study. Not everyone pursues the same degrees for their masters as their undergraduate degrees. In my own example, my undergraduate degree was in electronics engineering, but I switched to computer science for my master's, and then I switched from computer science to computer information systems. People do that. Even, let's say, Sundar Pichai had a degree in metallurgical engineering for his bachelor's education, but he switched. People do that. As long as you can explain that, it is alright. For example, my own father had a degree in physics, and then he went for a bank interview. In the bank interview, he was asked, "You have a degree in physics, why are you switching to this?" And then he was also asked, "How is your physics degree going to help in your banking career?" And his response was that even though he studied physics in his degree, but he developed the intellectual capability, the thinking faculty to perform better. That, and along with the discipline that he inculcated while his studies, will actually help him perform and become a good banker. So overall, my recommendation, again, this is my personal recommendation, different people will have different views, right? If you have a lower GPA, you should not try and escape that. You should actually address it. Usually people actually respect it when you acknowledge your weaknesses and then you discuss how you plan to address those weaknesses. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind and God bless America.